How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It's another exciting hour of the Eric Erickson Show, from Alaska to Florida, from Connecticut to California, all over the United States, except Hawaii, because Fisher just hasn't been as productive as I expected him to be. We're working on Hawaii. I need to go. I've never been to Hawaii. The one time I was supposed to go to Hawaii was when I got those blood clots, and they said I couldn't be on a plane for 6 months. So I need an excuse to do a market visit to Hawaii. Maui, Waikiki, somewhere, the North Shore there where they have the black sand. Somewhere. I'm just saying. In any event, the phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, if you text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, get everything you need to follow along with us. I want to talk about Bari Weiss and CBS News. I know her. We've been on Bill Maher Show on HBO together before. We have interacted. The Free Press has published my work. She's actually reached out a couple of times. I sent her a note the other day, said I was rooting for her and praying for her. The left is making this out to be some sort of massive conservative takeover of CBS News. I think they've got it really, really wrong. Did you know that Bari Weiss worked at the Wall Street Journal? And when Donald Trump won in 2016, she cried. She realized she probably didn't need to work for the Wall Street Journal, and she moved over to the New York Times. And it was at the New York Times where I think Bari Weiss wouldn't use the phrase perhaps, but was mugged by reality. She's a liberal. She's a lesbian. She is Jewish. She lives in New York. She's liberal. She's just not a woke progressive. She is way more moderate than the people who would have otherwise been her allies, and their treatment of her at the New York Times, because she is actually committed to voices across the political spectrum and not just those on the left, they shunned her. They were nasty to her in Slack chats. She finally wound up resigning from the New York Times. And she left the New York Times mostly because of the disparagement of progressives against her, where she was charged with amplifying a diversity of voices for New York Times readers, among other things. And that she did not become MAGA, but it opened her eyes to the discrimination of people who may not see eye to eye with her. It opened her eyes to how progressives in the press try to control a narrative, and they do not like to encounter voices that might shatter that narrative. And that led her to the Free Press, among other things, where she has shown a willingness to allow others to express views that she may not agree with, but that are within the mainstream of the various political parties. One of the things that the left does in this country, and they have allowed themselves to play the role, is for the left to be the arbiter of what is acceptable elsewhere. You see this, for example, with the commentary on Jay Jones, the Democrats' attorney general candidate in Virginia, where you have the never-Trumpers at the Bulwark insisting that any of those of us who changed our minds on Donald Trump have, quote-unquote, no moral authority. Never mind that they were never really with us on anything else. They had an R next to their name, in many cases by convenience. They weren't really with us otherwise. And now they've decided that they get to police us. The left gets to police us. The left tried to take me off of CNN. The left were incensed that Meet the Press had me on regularly and pressured them to take me off there. The left likes to decide who are the acceptable voices on the right. My view has always been, and Bari Weiss's view is, the left should police the left and the right should police the right. And if neither side polices themselves, they become more extreme. And, well, those voices do become the mainstream voices of that party. You see it happening on the left now. And frankly, it's one of my concerns on the right, as the right refuses to police its own side and has embraced the idea that the left has. The left progressives have this idea, no enemies to the left of me. On the right, you're seeing people come up with that, and suddenly you've got anti-Semitism flourishing. You've got socialists on the right now who want the government takeover of private businesses. They want to wield the power of government. There is a horseshoe theory in politics, and you know, for a very long time, the horseshoe theory in politics was something that many mainstream academic political scientists rejected. The idea has always been that on the outer extremes of the left and the right, they are basically the same people, that it is a horseshoe. I've always called it a circle, that you get to the furthest ends of the left and the right and they meet. They're a bunch of wackadoo progressive anti-Semites who both want to use government to expand their own power. And by the way, it's true. You see it playing out now. Bari Weiss started the Free Press, and it's been bought by Paramount, and Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, the billionaire owner of Oracle, his son David, I think his name is, involved in Hollywood. They bought Paramount, CBS. And they put Bari Weiss in charge of it, and the left is having an absolute meltdown that the woman who left the New York Times might suddenly clean up the news at CBS, where the left, by the way, I should note, has largely controlled the political narrative. Go back to Dan Rather. Go back to the National Guard memo on George Bush that cost him his job. Literally, this is a quote. One of the people has said, "She is richer in social clout than in Emmys or Pulitzers." That's Jessica Testa at the New York Times, who, by the way, wrote a piece about Bari Weiss and lies. Her very last line here is talking about Bari Weiss at a Federalist Society meeting. "I know that there are some people in this room who don't believe that my marriage should have been legal. And that's okay because we're all Americans who want lower taxes." That's how Jessica Testa at the New York Times, who covers non-traditional and emerging media. She's, I think, the Taylor Lawrence replacement and sounds just as psycho. That's the way she leaves it, except if you read the actual transcript, she was telling a joke. You wouldn't know that from the New York Times, and other writers have seized on this last line to suggest that that's what Bari Weiss was saying, and it's not true at all. The people who were in the room produced the transcript, and she was clearly making a joke. They can't handle now, this particular writer, Jessica Testa, can't handle that Bari Weiss has now, with the sale of the Free Press to Paramount, made more money in one transaction than this young lady will probably ever make in her lifetime. And they do not like the fact that she could be cleaning up CBS News, which, again, remember the Dan Rather scandal over the George W. Bush National Guard memo caused him to be ousted. They've only gotten more and more progressive. They're the third place TV news, and they have been ever since Walter Cronkite left. CBS News has always settled for third place because they had 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes last year produced a piece about German censorship laws and did not have a single person that they interviewed who was concerned with Germany's level of censorship. Think about that. They did a piece that was pro-German censorship of misinformation and disinformation. They never allowed an alternate viewpoint. Bari Weiss has singled out that piece, among others, as saying this is evidence of the need for reform at CBS, that all voices should be respected, and that whoever the Republicans listen to is a person that the left should listen to, and whoever the left listens to is someone the right should listen to. The left should not get to say you can't platform that person on the right if the person on the right is someone the right itself has platformed. They don't like that. What's very notable is that the reporters at CBS News have begun leaking their concerns. You know who they've leaked their concerns to? Left-wing news outlets. The American Prospect, Mehdi Hassan's group, MSNBC. That kind of tells you everything you need to know, that when the reporters, the supposedly objective reporters and editors and producers are concerned and they want people to know about it, where do they go with their concerns? To left-wing news outlets. They're not leaking to Fox News. They're not even leaking to CNN. They're going to far left outlets to voice their concerns. And that, by and large, does suggest that they don't want reform. Trust in the American media is now less than trust in Congress. More people in the United States of America would like a bacterial-resistant strain of syphilis than trust the American media. That tells you everything you need to know about where trust in the media is. And the media needs an intervention, but they don't want it. They're resisting the intervention. Bari Weiss is the intervention. She's of the left. She's a Jewish lesbian from New York City whose views lean to the left socially in this country, and yet she's too far right for the people who run the newsroom at CBS News. That should tell you just how far left CBS News and MSNBC and elsewhere have gone. I want to play you a good example of what I'm talking about here. This is Nicole Wallace on MSNBC having a conversation about a judge in South Carolina whose home burned down. There were a couple of people injured. The judge herself was not at home at the time. I believe it's a beach house vacation home, and they were on vacation when the house caught on fire. It's very important, I think, for you to hear the conversation that played out on MSNBC where Nicole Wallace speculated that it could have been a right-wing vigilante who burned it down. Why? Because the judge had been critical of Donald Trump in South Carolina. There has not been any evidence. In fact, a lot of people in the press rushed out to suggest that it could have been a right-wing person who burned down the home because of this judge's criticisms of Donald Trump. And now the police in South Carolina have come forward and said there's no evidence that this was arson.
When we come back, what we're learning about the fire that destroyed the home of a South Carolina circuit court judge who faced criticism from Trump officials after a ruling she made against the Trump administration. And it comes amid a surge in hostility and threats against judges, as well as criticism directly from the Trump administration, including for Judge Goodstein, after she temporarily blocked the Justice Department from accessing the files of millions of registered voters in South Carolina. Mary McCord is still with us. Mary, what questions do you have based on what we're hearing so far?
You know, this is the kind, again, we've talked today already about crossing Rubicons, right? And when you're starting to attack judges because of their rulings, we're in a very, very dangerous position in this country. And it makes judges fearful. It makes prosecutors fearful, as we know. It makes others in positions where they could be criticized by Donald Trump fearful. And he needs to know the power of his voice and how people respond to that. We've been saying this for years, Nicole, but if this is what this turns out to be, some sort of politically motivated act of domestic terrorism, then, the importance and significance of the things that Donald Trump says about a person just, again, will be demonstrated in this.
Now, I want to go back because this is very important. Listen to the opening here again of this person with Nicole Wallace.
Yes. Mary, what questions do you have based on what we're hearing so far?
You know, this is the kind, again, we've talked today already about crossing Rubicons, right? And when you're starting to attack judges because of their rulings.
When you're starting to attack judges because of the rulings, the South Carolina law enforcement now says this doesn't appear to be arson. And yet the presumption on MSNBC is that it had to be an attack. Now, think about this. When Donald Trump was shot on MSNBC, the conversation as the bullet was in the air was how he's a tyrant who needed to be stopped. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the conversation on MSNBC was maybe this was someone on the right who did it. And now the assumption is that, again, maybe this judge was targeted because she criticized Donald Trump, and it turns out it's probably not arson. this is a sign that the National Press Corps actually needs an intervention. And when Bari Weiss is hired at CBS News to clean up the editorial direction of that network, which has drifted very far left, probably further left than ABC or NBC in terms of the broadcast national news, they're squealing like stuck pigs. If nothing else, if the editorial direction of CBS News is able to change, if Bari Weiss can clean this up and there's a ratings improvement at CBS News, it's a clue to the other networks how to improve their ratings. And here's the thing, I don't think they'll do it. I think CBS News will become the dominant force in broadcast news as people move there, and ABC and NBC will scream that it's totalitarian right-wing hatred, and they'll refuse to clean up their act. Boll & Branch kindly sent me a new set of king-size sheets, and I'm happy to get them, but I'll tell you the truth, I've already got Boll & Branch sheets that I've had for about a decade. They are so soft now. They haven't frayed. They haven't worn out. They've just gotten really soft. They're made of the highest quality, 100% organic cotton. They're very durable, and right now they've got limited edition fall colors for a deeply comforting bedroom. And they come with the 30-night worry-free guarantee. And I'm telling you, the more you wash them, the softer they get, and they don't wear out. I've had my set of Boll & Branch sheets for almost a decade. You can start building your sanctuary of comfort this fall with Boll & Branch. For a limited time, get 20% off your first set of sheets, plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/Eric. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/Eric, ERICK. Save 20%, unlock free shippings, exclusions apply, and you get those great fall colors right now. Well, Donald Trump is coming under fire from Democrats again, which I think is one of the funniest things. You just got to listen to the comment that's drawing the ire of Democrats today. It's the comparison.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? You know? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about? I'll tell you what, I'm getting...
Oh my gosh, he's under fire for that. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. The president of the United States. When we come back, got to talk more about the aviation slowdown that is beginning to happen in the country. Sean Duffy has just been explaining why. It's not actually the administration that's doing it. It's the situation with the shutdown. We'll get to that audio when we come back. First, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them for less than $200. I kind of needed to deploy mine last night. So on Sunday, the kids wanted burgers and onion rings. I make fantastic onion rings, by the way. I really do. And so I made French fries for my daughter because she doesn't like onion rings, made onion rings for everybody else. And the house smelled even yesterday like the fryer because I had to do it inside because of the rain on Sunday. So got to do the Eden Pure Thunderstorm because it wipes out those odors. They get into the couch, they get into the fabric, and it just still smells like cooking oil from the kitchen. And the Eden Pure Thunderstorm generates ozone, which also can get into the fabric and get into the couch, and it touches the ionized particles we know as odor, and it wipes them out. And you can get 3 of them. They're very small, very compact. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, you get 3 of them for less than $200. They also kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses that get pulled through the machine as it recirculates there. It gets rid of pet dander and dust and pollen, but I use it as an odor eliminator, and it genuinely is effective at odor elimination. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. You put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. You get 3 of them, upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV. I always keep one in my travel bag. EdenPureDeals.com. Plug it into the wall, plug it up with a USB cord. It packs a wallop. 3 of them, less than $200. Discount code ERIC3 at EdenPureDeals.com. In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only pick 2. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they've upgraded to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How's it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and for all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Hello, welcome. I want to talk about air traffic control for a moment because it is political and it's not. It's complex, but it's simple. Oh, yeah, the ironies abound. The Democrats continue to keep the government shut down. They will not vote for a clean continuing resolution, which the Democrats have always said you must do. They won't negotiate with terrorists, they've said in the past. They won't negotiate with hostage takers, they've said in the past. Now they're the hostage takers. They're like, give us what we want or the government stays closed. Republicans not biting. Well, the problem is that federal employees, many of them are considered essential and they have to go to work, but they're not getting paid. And over time, well, they scale back activities of some employees in the federal government because of the lack of pay, and it begins to slow things down. So not all TSA agents show up at work. Not all FAA flight controllers show up at work. And some of them just say, screw it, I'm not going. I'm not getting paid. Becomes a problem. What they're trying to do is to spread the situation out and minimize impacts, but what in process they're doing is targeting areas of Democratic control so the voters in those areas feel the pain the most. So it's going to happen, and the question is, how do you contain it and spread it? Well, the Republicans spread it to Democratic areas first. That includes Atlanta, Georgia, where I am. Two Dead Mares International Airport is going to see more problems than elsewhere. I had somebody's very funny when I started the show. I was talking about this at first, and he's like, I flew out of Atlanta to Washington and then Vermont. I have a problem. Everything was on time. You're lying. It's talking points. He missed the part where I said starting today. It's only going to build over time. The beginning is today, and places like Los Angeles are having the problems, and it's going to come to other parts of the country. This is Sean Duffy. He was on CNBC earlier today talking about this.
I have to advocate for them as well to say, listen, this is the reality of America. They are under pressure. They provide great services to us. And by the way, when your plane's delayed or you're canceled, they're the ones that are making sure that you don't fly when it's not safe. They're the ones that make sure we get to where we're going. And so I'm going to advocate for them. Again, let's open up the government. There's the conversations and the fights that are happening are about issues allegedly that are going to come to fruition at the end of the year. Open up the government, take the months to have a conversation and negotiate, but let's not use this as leverage with hardworking Americans that keep our sky safe for political benefit. I have to advocate for them as well.
That's Sean Duffy on CNBC, and then he also went to Fox News to have a discussion as well.
I'm here at Newark Airport about to go up into the tower and talk to some of our air traffic controllers. Now, we have a government shutdown, but that doesn't mean that airports shut down or controllers don't come to work. They're coming to work every single day to make sure that our airports are safe and our flights actually fly.
This is the promotional video that he shot before going on Fox.
How does the shutdown impact controllers in towers like this, not just in Newark, but around the country?
I think the biggest thing is, it's just a distraction that we don't need.
Adding another distraction of, hey, this is a government shutdown, who's going to be coming into work, our support staff isn't coming in when that funding runs out. They do a ton of things to make sure that we're safe.
I have a wife that doesn't work, 2 kids at home. If I don't get a paycheck here in a couple of weeks, I still have to provide for them. So it's not something that I want to have to be thinking about.
That's him talking to the FAA controllers before he goes on Fox News.
They work 6 days a week, right? So we don't have enough controllers, so they have to work overtime. And they're family people. right? This is their living. They're concerned now if they don't get their paychecks. How do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay my car payment? What do I do to put food on the kids' table? So the controllers yesterday were saying, we actually have to think about working 6 days a week. And then do I go out and take an Uber job and try to make extra money to put the food on the table? All because Chuck Schumer is trying to have this political fight instead of saying, let's do a clean CR. Let's open the government up. Let's have a conversation about what Democrats want to talk about, but do that over the course of the next several months. Don't shut it down and affect our airspace, our controllers. Again, it's a huge problem. And again, Burbank, 0 controllers came to work. I don't support that. They should come to work. They're supposed to come to work. But they didn't miss a paycheck yet. So why aren't they coming to work? I mean, it's only been 6 days. So, the paycheck, the pay cycle ended yesterday, right? Their paychecks come next week, and they see what's on the horizon, Brian. They're like, listen, do I see a resolution to the shutdown? I don't see it. So guess what? I'm concerned about my own life, my own family. And what we do is say, again, I want people when they travel to get to where they're going. So if we don't have controllers, we're going to make sure the airspace is safe. So what we do is we'll slow traffic, we'll shut down traffic. And that's what you saw in Burbank. We saw, significant delays because controllers weren't there. They work 6.
Yeah. If they stop showing up because the pay period is ended, well, then, okay, they're not going to show up for work. Could they get fired? Yeah, they absolutely could get fired, but there's already a shortage. And this is the thing that I think the Democrats, well, I'm sure the smart ones have paid attention to it, but there is a flight traffic controller shortage in the country. We don't have enough because, remember, the Biden administration decided to racially discriminate and they wouldn't hire white controllers. There weren't enough non-white controllers to meet the quotas, and so we just weren't hiring air traffic controllers. The result being we're behind on hiring, we're behind on training, we don't have enough. So when flight controllers decide they're going to stay home because they're not getting paid, it has a cascading effect in the system, and it's starting to happen. As of today, it's beginning to happen, and it's only going to escalate. And so what's going to happen is that they will cancel flights and they will slow flights going in and out of major areas of the country in order to maintain distances of planes, in order to maintain safety. This is because of the Democrats' decision to shut down the government. The Democrats, I literally just got this email as the Sean Duffy clip was playing, are saying, well, a majority of voters blame the Republicans. It doesn't matter who the voters blame. The reality is it's the Democrats who've done this. The Democrats could vote tomorrow for a clean resolution and the government would reopen, and they know that. And they're hoping to advance this health care argument. And to some degree, I think they are having traction. I mean, Republicans are getting nervous about it. Republicans are trying to cut a deal. You've got the president already out there saying that he wants something done. And the Democrats just flat out deciding, give us our way or no. And the Republicans aren't going to give them their way. So there's going to be more pain. As I said earlier in the program, I think Tom Cotton of Arkansas is right that the Republicans on Capitol Hill are going to cut a deal, but the Democrats on Capitol Hill are not going to reopen the government until after October 18th because of the progressive nature of things. Now, on top of this, there is an economic issue. The Economist YouGov, they've got some polling out. Take it for what it's worth. But 53% of Americans right now believe the economy is starting to get worse. Now, there is some economic tie-in here over tariffs. Remember, the president has 50% tariffs on aluminum right now. One of the major aluminum plants in the United States, the fourth largest producer of domestic aluminum, had a fire and took it out of manufacturing. A buddy of mine who's in the auto industry sent me this note. A fire at a Novelis plant in New York last month has eliminated 40% of sheet metal production in the United States. Their biggest customer is Ford, and much of that aluminum goes in the F-150, their most popular and profitable vehicle. Sheet aluminum is stamped into body panels and other parts. Now the automaker has to source aluminum on the spot market. Most of that comes from overseas and is subject to a 50% tariff. This isn't just going to affect Ford, though. They're the hardest hit, but Coke and Pepsi, HVAC equipment makers, and other makers use sheet aluminum, and 40% of aluminum production in the country is now offline due to the fire at Novelis. So prices will go up. Now, part of the reason you're not seeing the price increases so many economists had said you would see is because a lot of companies decided that they couldn't raise the prices at the level they would otherwise raise them because you couldn't afford to buy the products. And so they're eating the cost. But in eating the cost, they can't raise wages. They can't get pay raises. They can't hire. They can't invest in their company. They can't reinvest in their company. So the companies are going stagnant and profit margins are down, which is also affecting the stock market for some of these companies. You know, outside of the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500, the rest are stagnant right now, and the tariffs are making it worse. So you do have this economic situation that is going to be compounded by a government shutdown because a government shutdown does eat into the GDP of the nation. You would think that the private sector could go gangbusters when the government shuts down, and I like government shuts down because we're safe from the regulators, but that's part of the problem. You can't get regulatory sign-off for the pharmaceutical companies right now because the government's closed. You can't get federal permitting done right now for the oil companies because the government's closed. You can't get federal permitting for power companies' new construction because the government's closed. You can't get regulatory approval for the airlines for route changes because the government is closed. Because the government is closed, any private business that actually needs regulatory certification from the federal government for any reason whatsoever right now can't get it, which means they have to slow down. And because they slow down, that takes out of the economy. On top of all of that, you've got the increases in prices for consumers with groceries. Grocery prices are going back up. You have entities in the country right now that are slowing down their hiring. You have entities in the country right now that have slowed their investments. So you got the tariffs, you got the slowdown in the economy, you got the shutdown in the federal government. There are warning signs about the economy on the horizon. And the benefit that Donald Trump has right now is that he can blame the Democrats for it. He can say because the Democrats shut down the government, the Democrats have to own what's happening to the economy. I don't know that Americans will appreciate that level of economic argument. The upside for the Republicans, however, is that people hate the Democrats more than Donald Trump. People do not like the Democrats right now. The Democrats do not have a leader to articulate a vision for the country. The Democrats can be blamed for what is happening, and they can own it. It's going to take Donald Trump out there making the case, and I think most people will believe it. Because, again, a majority of Americans, they don't like Donald Trump. I know you like Donald Trump passionately, but like 53% of Americans disagree and don't like him. But that's still more than the Democrats. It's up to like 70-some% to 80% with people who don't like the Democrats. So if Donald Trump says something, even though people may not like him, they still like him more than the Democrats, and they're still got a higher propensity to believe him. So if he comes out and there is an economic slowdown, even if it's tariff related, he comes out and says it's not tariffs. It's the government shutdown. The Democrats did this. People are going to believe Donald Trump. They're not going to believe the Democrats. He has the opportunity to define this with the Democrats. And the great reality is the Democrats are the ones voting to keep the government shut down. And when you start traveling this week and you see more and more delays over the next 2 weeks, it's because the Democrats have the government shut down. When the TSA lines are overwhelmed at the airports, it's because of the Democrats. When you as a federal employee don't get your paycheck at the end of this week, if you're in the military at the end of next week, it's because of the Democrats. And the Republicans can make that message. This Friday, federal employees should get paychecks. Non-military. Military payroll is next week. And when the checks don't come on Friday, and they're not going to come on Friday, the Republican talking point is very simple. If the Democrats would just reopen the government, you would get the paychecks. We keep voting to reopen the government. Democrats do not. It becomes a very compelling message when the paychecks don't show up on Friday in people's mailboxes or their bank accounts. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. So a funny thing happened. I find it very notable. This morning, instead of writing a big post about the second anniversary of the October 7th attack, I just put a tweet up, 280 characters of just the Israeli flag emoji. And it's flooded with accounts replying $7,000. I'm like, what? I don't understand what this is replied to. Well, one of them, and I assume it's a bot, has now put up, it says, Israel has deposited $7,000 in your account. You got that? So you say anything in defense of Israel, and the anti-Semitic bots all over social media say that you are getting paid by Israel to defend Israel. I wish I want the big pharma money, and I want the Jewish blood money. I can't get the Jews or big pharma to pay me. I keep getting accused of being on the payroll of both of them because I'll defend them, but I'm not actually on the payroll. I don't get the money. I mean, I should be a wealthy person able to fly a private plane, given the amount of money the Jews have supposedly paid me over time. And on top of that, I should have my house on the beach in Sea Pines in Hilton Head from Big Pharma. And I don't. I'm clearly a bad businessman. Clearly, I'm not Jewish, I guess. The amount of money I'm supposedly being paid under the table by these people to defend them, as opposed to it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. You know how many people are alive thanks to Big Pharma? They get assailed by the faith healers of the day that, if you would just live your life this way, you wouldn't get sick. It's clearly the sin in your life that's caused you to be sick. And meanwhile, that person's taking high blood pressure medicine. Thanks to Big Pharma, they're not having a stroke. My wife gets her chemo for her very rare cancer. And then, how can you not defend the Jews? They didn't orchestrate anything to deserve what happened on October 7th. You know, it's weird. The juxtaposition here in the spin is that Gaza was a third world hellhole because of Israel before October 7th, but now suddenly Gaza is a third world hellhole because Israel bombed it. And look how glorious it was before Israel bombed it. You notice how they changed that spin. Gaza was actually in a prison camp before October 7th, and now Gaza is just this dilapidated place because of October 7th. They'll never admit the truth. They're just a bunch of liars, a bunch of anti-Semites. You remember it was Israeli citizens who were murdered on October 7th, not Palestinians, not Hamas. Be on the side of the righteous, be on the side of Israel in this cause. Here, the second anniversary. If you take some of the Hillsdale history classes, you'll find out more about these topics. You go to ericforhillsdale.com today, and they can set you right. It's education. It's not indoctrination at Hillsdale College. You go to ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com, and you sign up today with Hillsdale College. They have 40 classes to choose from: history, chemistry, math, economics, literature, theology, political science, philosophy. They're all there. You can take a great one on the Federalist Papers, a really good one on capitalism, and each class is a series of 30-minute episodes. Depending on the class, depends on the number of episodes, by Hillsdale's great faculty. They're entertaining and stimulating lectures, and you watch them and you learn about a topic you're already interested in. You do it completely for free from Hillsdale College. You get a certificate of completion when you're done. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College today. Hillsdale will educate you. Hillsdale will stimulate your brain, and they will make you smarter about an issue you're interested in. ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. You guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and I will see you all tomorrow.